All right, guys, we're going to review Secret Invasion Episode 4 entitled Beloved. Spoilers ahoy. Okay. So we open this episode. So Gaia,
We
Emilia
knew what was
Clarke,
gonna
right,
happen
right.
here.
She was shot at the end of the last episode, and we're like, oh, this means nothing.
Yeah.
So we find out she used the Super Scroll machine on herself, and so now she has the powers to survive the gunshot.
Which is, it's very fortunate that that lab had no security to watch over, which is just insanely powerful technology.
Right. It seemed a little far-fetched that somebody wouldn't have been watching that. Although I will say, we had a criticism of the last episode, and this episode made me realize, okay, we were kind of wrong about something. So remember, there was a scene in the last episode, I think it was, where he got stabbed in the hand and he used his power to fix it. And I thought that was just like a regular scroll power. And we're like, well, why aren't there other scrolls using that? I didn't realize, because it seemed like in that episode they were still working on getting the machine ready, but what we found out is that is a super scroll power. So he had already used the super scroll treatment,
Right.
and that's why he could do that.
It was,
so I was like,
the extremis abilities from Iron Man 3, I think.
I guess so. I didn't realize that when we watched the last episode, but yeah, I guess so. That kind of made sense for that criticism. Is okay. He is different. He already has the super scroll ability.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that at the time.
And that's what she does here at the beginning. She gets
Right.
the extremis abilities, I guess. Maybe others, but we don't know that.
So now we get a flashback to Paris 2012. Vara and Fury are on a date. She puts it together that Fury brought the Avengers together. And I believe 2012 was when the first Avengers movie came out. So them saving New York had just happened, I guess. She shares a poem with him. And the gist of the poem is wanting to feel beloved.
Yeah.
Hence the name of the episode. So back in present day, Vara meets with Rhodes in a church. She tells him that Fury was fired. And I thought this was weird. He's like, oh, how did that happen? And so I thought he was maybe for a second going to play it off, even though he knew. So she's like, oh, I guess the president did it. And then Rhodes is like, no, he didn't. I did it. So he immediately cops to it. And also, they gave him a little bit of weird dialogue here that sounded like maybe somebody that didn't watch wrestling, because he's like, I DDT'd that fool off the top rope. I Undertaker'd his ass. I'm like, that's a little bit weird, but okay. So we find out that Rhodes basically admits to being in league with Gravik, and he orders Vara to kill Fury. Now we mentioned, and called it exactly that Fury did tap her phone at the end of during the last episode.
But what we get here in this conversation is that this isn't even Gravik's order. This is just the Skrull who's, being Rhodey, being like, do this for me. I want you to do this.
Oh, I didn't necessarily pick up on that. So this, you think is his own kind of thing, rather than being a direct order from Gravik? Yeah. Oh, okay, interesting. So we find out though that Fury is listening into this conversation, and Rhodes tells Vara that either her or Fury is dying today. Now, one thing, it didn't shock me at all that Rhodes ends up being a Skrull.
That wasn't even a reveal. It wasn't a reveal.
Well, the thing, I would have liked them to be a little more sly about it, because once he started doing this, I'm like, oh, okay, he's a Skrull. Mm-hmm. Because I guess I didn't even think oh, maybe he's pretending to be an a-hole because he knows Fury's listening and he has some other reason. I was like, nah, that doesn't make sense. He's just a Skrull.
I think for 2 weeks now I've known that Rhodey's a Skrull. Everybody's known it. It's just been the paintings on the wall, the writings on the wall. It's been there.
The only thing is that scene between Rhodes and Fury, in the bar from the other episode. I really like that scene, but now that I'm oh, it wasn't really Rhodes. Like, I thought that was an interesting, like, character development for Rhodes.
Yeah.
But now it's like, it wasn't really him.
Yeah, the reveal should have been much better. Like it should have been he goes along with everything. He's trying his best to like help, and then at some point you find out when the cards are down, like when things are shit's hitting the fan. That's when he reveals, "Oh, you're on your own, buddy."
Yeah, because we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and you actually told me like something you came up with that I was like, oh, that would have been a much better thing. To where you're right, like he plays it like he's helping the whole way, and then when the battle goes down at the end of the episode, he just kind of sits in the car and smirks. You know, and we find out, oh, he is like,
yeah, that would have been a better reveal.
That would have been a much better, because here it's just like blatant, and he just basically says, "Hey, I'm a Skrull."
Yeah, yeah. His behavior is not Brody since the beginning of this series. It seems like,
right. Well, I mean, that dialogue at the table with Fury, I was like, well, if that's Rhodes, that makes him interesting. Like,
yeah.
Because we never have really seen that much of his person. I guess you could say, well, the Skrull took his memory, so maybe it's kind of what Rhodes would say,
True.
But I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So Vara does try to convince Rhodes that, basically, oh, Fury's old and useless since the blip. You don't need to kill him. But, Rhodes doesn't go for it. He's like, either he dies or you die.
Yeah.
So we get a scene where Varric tells his lieutenant that he killed Gaia, and we also find out that they're planning some sort of another like false flag attack to get Russia and the U.S. like heated up at each other. We get a scene where Talos meets with Gaia on a park bench. She says that she is on his side, but she needs to know what his plan is. So Talos says his plan is to first take out Gravik's insurgency, and then he'll use that as a bargaining chip with the president to get amnesty for the remaining 1 million Skrulls to kind of live on Earth. Now, one thing is like, he'd have to be more than the president. It'd have to be the president of every country.
Yeah.
They're not just in the U.S. Like, they're everywhere. So
a ton of them live in Russia, I think.
Right.
The UK.
They need to get Putin on their side, too. So Gaia doesn't believe in Talos's, like, idealism. She's like, they're not going to go for that, you know?
Yeah, he seems a little wide-eyed there.
And also, she wants Skrulls to be able to live in their own skin. She doesn't want to have to blend in.
Yeah.
So we get a scene where Vara and Fury sit down at their kitchen table. Fury says that Vara was his greatest mistake. And
Which was cold, man.
he was pretty cold in this episode, wasn't he?
But he does say that, if he had a chance to do it all over again, he doesn't know what he would do. He might just do it all over again.
Right. And he also says he knows that she plans to kill him with the gun she has. So they both end up putting their guns on the kitchen table. Fury asks why Vara chose to take on this persona of Priscilla Davis, the woman she's disguised as. And she says Davis was dying of a heart defect, which she hid from her loved ones because she didn't want them to know. And I think Vara thought Fury would fall in love with Priscilla. And so she told this Priscilla lady as she was dying that she was a Skrull, and asked if she could basically, take over her life. Mm-hmm. And Priscilla made Vara promise 3 things. Number 1, that she would bury her at sea, which apparently Vara did. 2, that she would continue to be a daughter to her parents, which I guess she also did. And 3, that she would never hurt Fury. So Fury and Vara quote the beloved poem from the Paris scene to each other, and then they fire the guns at exactly the same time.
Yeah, this was interesting to me. How did they both have the same idea?
They're so in sync with each other. They've been in their relationship so long. And then like the camera pans away for a second, so you're not sure exactly what happened. But when it comes back, we find out that they both kind of purposely missed each other and blew holes in their walls.
They both knew to miss each other,
right,
while shooting at each other.
So Fury tells Vara that they're going to come after her, and she says that she can handle herself. She asks Fury if he would have loved her if she never changed. And he says he guesses they'll never know.
Yeah.
Which is kind of another like kind of cold
pretty cold
thing between them.
because that ties into the poem that she talked about how she
Right.
wanted to be loved, and then she changes into this person so that she could be with Fury, and then he's like, I think that might, he doesn't say it, but that could be the only reason he loved her.
Right.
Man.
So we get a scene of a showering Skrull who is revealed to be Rhodes. So now the cat's totally out. By the way, was that a female Skrull?
Yeah.
I thought it was, but then I was like, because like they put the towel like kind of over the boob, so I was like, oh, it must be a female. After Rhodes gets dressed, he is confronted by Fury. Fury says that he doesn't want to leave things like they did the other day, that scene at the restaurant. And he offers Rhodes a drink of Pappy Van Winkle whiskey.
Is that a real drink?
I'm not sure. They say it's a bourbon, but yeah, I'm guessing it's made up, but maybe not. I don't know. I don't know nothing about alcohol, so maybe. Rhodes takes or doesn't take a drink at first and asks Fury what he's really doing there. Fury says there are Skrulls high up in the U.S. government, but Rhodes pretends not to believe him. Fury says he will keep his mouth shut about all this Skrull stuff if Rhodes gives him his job back. Mm-hmm. Rhodes asks if he can make a counteroffer, while at the same time takes a drink of the whiskey. Now, as a viewer, we're like, there's a trick with the whiskey.
Yeah.
And Rhodes, the Skrull Rhodes to me, should have been smarter.
Right.
Like, should have known that there was something up with the whiskey.
Yeah.
I kind of thought it kind of showed that character was stupider than they should have been.
For sure.
But he plays a video of Fury when Gravik was disguised as Fury shooting Maria Hill. And basically Rhodes blackmails Fury with the video and tells him to keep his mouth shut or else. Then in a scene with Fury and Talos, we find out the alcohol had a location tracker in it. So Rhodes meets the president on an airstrip in Russia. He preps the president for a meeting with the Russians. The president does notice that Rhodes has been drinking. I'm not sure why they included that, though, to be honest. That
I
scene.
don't understand that either.
So the president's motorcade is going for the meeting with the Russians, but alas, a helicopter shows up with Gravik in it, and it's attacked by Gravik. Fury and Talos show up because they're tailing Rhodes, who has a location tracker in him. They show up to help save the president. And this is where Gravik reveals his Groot powers. He grows his arms out. So Fury's reinforcements show up. I wrote, even though he was fired. So my thing is so Fury, even though Rhodes is taken over, Fury is fired. He should not have the authority to get reinforcements.
Right.
So I thought this was a bit of BS.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how he's able to access anything anymore, right?
I mean, I guess you could make the argument, he's got some friend in the business who could help set up the reinforcements, but they don't show that.
Right.
So, or maybe Talos pretended to be somebody.
Yeah, maybe.
But anyway, they got reinforcements somehow. So Talos ends up getting shot and begins to turn into a Skrull. And he was trying to the president was trapped upside down in a car, so Talos was trying to break through his bulletproof window. Fury they get the president out. Fury takes the president to safety in his vehicle, but at the same time Talos is captured by a soldier. Fury realizes that soldier must be a Skrull, and it is. It's revealed to be Gravik, and Gravik then stabs Talos. Fury shoots Gravik some more, but his Super Skrull powers heal him up and save him. More reinforcements on Fury's side show up, so Gravik and his men.
He got shot clear in the head. For any thing that should be a kill shot, but his head just grew back. Like,
Oh, Gravik.
yeah.
Well, he's a super scroll, man. So yeah, more reinforcements show up, and Gravik and his men leave. And then Fury leaves with the president, and Talos is seemingly dead. Now, I think he probably will stay dead.
Yeah.
Seemingly because that'll be the story impotence for Gaia to finally be like, oh, my father died fighting for what he believes in. You know, I will take up his cause.
Man, Gravik killed both her parents now.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So I think, and like Ben Mendelsohn is a good actor and Talos is a fine character, but like nobody really cares about him enough to be like, oh no, we'll never see Talos again.
I disagree.
Really?
I actually like that character.
I mean, I didn't have a problem with him, but at the same time, I'm like, it's not like the biggest loss in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to deter me from watching the rest of the show or something.
Right.
But, you know, I liked him. I thought, like, besides him and Fury, you know, there's not like a lot of... Rhodes is okay, but now that I know he's not really him, I don't know what to expect from that character. Might just be a scroll for the rest of the show. Who knows? But, yeah, I like Talos. He was my second favorite character on the show.
Oh, I was fine with him, but at the same time, I'm like,
I like him a lot more than Gaia. She's so far like not very fun to watch on screen so far.
Well, I mean, I like Emilia Clarke, but so far her character, you know, I mean, I guess she's in like a serious place or whatever. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. But that's the thing is her identity, like, even no matter how the show shakes out, I think is like going to be kind of a more serious role. Like her probably being the leader of the Skrulls, basically.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
I mean, I imagine that's how this series will kind of end, with her being kind of their chosen leader.
Yeah, but right now she's like a real sad sack.
That's true.
I guess both her parents died.
Now, do you think by the end of this episode they will go down into that basement and find real Rhodes?
Wait, what basement? What are you talking about?
Where they stash all the memory people?
I think by episode 5 they should probably make a dent into what the Skrulls are doing. They have to, right?
Well, if there's 6 I imagine episode 5's got to end where looking like the Skrulls have the upper hand somehow, so that in episode 6,
maybe that's when they make the breakthrough. Yeah. Okay, maybe. I just think things need to start popping off. They should have popped off a little bit in this last episode. To be honest, like the real bigger picture should be already kind of unfolding. That's
the thing is like my rating in this episode is still, or this show is still like just okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know if in 2 episodes they can do anything to like up my feelings of the show, but
this is like deja vu. Like this has happened before with other shows too.
Pacing issues, where it's like we get halfway in and it's like, boy, I don't know if they can really end this in a satisfying way, you know?
Yeah. Like what if they just do that cop out like they did with She-Hulk, and they're just like, hey,
that meta ending. Woof. Yeah. So far, at least this hasn't been aggravating as those shows were. I don't expect it to do anything that's like that bad or like last episode of Hawkeye bad or anything like that.
I'm not excited about Echo, but I don't know, we'll see.
I'm not either, but you know what I find curious is I guess they announced that Echo it's going to be a show where they just dump it all at once, like all episodes at once. And the speculation is because they don't have a lot of confidence in it, they want it to just be like basically over and done with in one news cycle rather than going like weeks and weeks of people being like, maybe this isn't very good.
Yeah.
So that, I don't know. Like, personally, I like being able to just watch things all the way through rather than have to do the week-to-week thing. Although I guess it works out if you have a podcast and you're reviewing something.
Right.
But it does make me wonder if that's the reason they're doing it, is because they're like, this isn't turning out great, and we don't want several weeks of people being like, this isn't great.
If they drop it all at once, there's a much higher chance I'll watch it all. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to wait like a week for an episode of Echo. I don't think so.
Maybe that's another thing they're thinking. Maybe they're just like, well, Echo's not really a big enough IP that people are necessarily going to be excited to come back week to week. So we will just drop it all in a weekend or whatever.
And if it's good, then people will be like, okay, we're pleasantly surprised. Maybe next year they'll do it differently.
Right. I do wonder, though, if that's even that's a show I was surprised they even went with.
Yeah.
Just because, like, even in Hawkeye, like, she wasn't a standout character at all.
Right.
And I was like, really? You're going to make a show dedicated to her? But even, like, in, WandaVision, I guess, what's her name was a standout character, but I'm still not interested in her show either.
Yeah.
Agatha.
Yeah. Monica Rambeau is interesting to me. Like she's not gonna get a show or anything, but she's like
she's gonna be in the Marvels movie though. She's getting a little more
big part.
Yeah.
Agatha, I don't know, maybe she can give us more insight into what Wanda's gonna do in the future, like what Wanda's whole thing is. I don't know. Because maybe that's probably a concern of hers still. Like she's probably gonna be getting out of Wanda's spell and trying to figure out what's going on.
Oh, that's right, because didn't Wanda like put a spell on her where like she doesn't know who she is or something like that? Yeah.
So, I mean, it would be strange if she just dropped everything Wanda and just did her own thing after that. I think she probably still is interested in what Wanda's doing.
I think they did announce that Aubrey Plaza is going to be in that show though, and I like her.
Okay, yeah, she could definitely play a witch.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Like she was born to play a witch actually. Oh, you got anything to add before we wrap this bad boy up?
No, I mean, so far it's okay. I'm fingers crossed. I'm hoping this ending is worth it.
Right. Yeah. Fingers crossed. Well, I think that's going to do it for us this week. We do thank everybody very, very much for sticking with us. If you will, please subscribe both to the YouTube channel and to the podcast on the podcast service of choice to listen in audio form. And please leave us thumbs up, comments. Tell us what you thought about this episode, what you think of all this DC casting news, all that good stuff. And if you want to, you can go to the platform that I feel like is fastly dying called Twitter. And you can follow me at Zach Jones Live. That's ZachJonesLive. But that is going to do it for all of our shenanigans and poppycock this week. Please, please, please tune in again next week. Bye, guys.
Take care.